Hi, I'm Candy Evans, and this is Dallas Dirt. Today, I am going to be speaking with none other than Phillip Huffines of Huffines Communities, the president and CEO, co-owner of Huffines Communities, which is one of the largest developers in North Texas, and who has a fascinating story of how he got from fireworks, oil and gas, to dirt. We love anything to do with dirt and the story behind it. I am so grateful to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming. We're just going to talk about real estate and how you do what you do, and you develop some amazing communities. You are actually creating towns in Texas.
That's right, Candy. But first off, thank you for the opportunity to be here and visiting with you. It's always fun, and I watch your show. It's quite good.
You started when you were in college with your twin brother.
We sure did. It's a little bit old, but I do try to introduce myself this way. I get around twice as often as you do because I have an identical twin brother. Of course, everyone says, oh, I saw you at such and such. During college, that was tough because we'd walk on campus and the girls would say, well, you sure are moody today. I never met him. So we kind of shy sometimes. As an identical twin, we have been best friends for most of our life.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You all get along really well. Most of the time.
Until we argue.
Do your parents have to settle the arguments?
Oh, well, boys like to fight, so we
Yeah.
would definitely wrestle and get in fights. But we always get along and have been partners, as you just mentioned. We were in high school. Brother Don is the one with the ideas, comes out. He says, well, we need to go do this or that. And some of them are too grandiose, but I'm the one that does the implementing. And he said, let's go sell fireworks. It was 1976 and the bicentennial year. And he had an idea on where we could put a stand. We had to research all of that. We're 16, 17, and had to get a state license. Mainly what got us into real estate was we had to research all the jurisdictions for fireworks, where you could sell, where you couldn't, where it was legal.
And they were different.
Each city was a little different, state rules and regulations on it. We did that for 5 years through college and high school. We had multiple locations and expanded the business. And so we learned land and land entitlements at a young age.
Let's explain what an entitlement is.
Oh, well, the buying land and what's
that
its
means
back.
what you can do with it. Isn't that how you would describe it?
Entitlements really refer to the local government, sometimes the state government, about what they allow or want to occur. Local governments, municipalities or cities, pass a lot of rules or laws and regulations on what can be built through zoning or subdivision ordinances, street widths, drainage, water, sewer, everything about how you construct or get a permit to build a house is regulated by the local government.
And those are the entitlements that when you buy the real estate, you buy those entitlements, correct?
Well, it's not quite that simple. If the previous owner went through all of the processes, but most of the time we just buy a farm or a ranch, raw land with no entitlements. And because one of our fortes or specialties is to go to local governments and get the property entitled. That increases the value because then someone can say, okay, the property's worth more now because I know what I can do with it. We call it de-risking the property.
De-risking the property, and that makes it more valuable.
And it needs to have access to water and sewer.
Because otherwise you can't, you just camp out on it, basically.
It's more risk.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the city can deny what you want to do with the property. And devalue the property substantially.
That's why some developers actually go work the entitlements and then turn around and sell the property because it's now worth more money.
There's a step up in value.
I was fascinated by the way commercial real estate works. You were doing these fireworks, you had all these beautiful communities that you went through. Did you ever stop and think, oh, I think we put a development here, a home development?
Oh, not that age. Later, after college, Don and I were in college together. We got Texas Monthly out, 400 richest Texans. And most of them were real estate or oil and gas. So he said he wanted to be in real estate. He went to work for Henry S. Miller, he in real estate. And I worked for Getty Oil Company Houston for several years. Oil and gas went to $10 a barrel, whatever. So that was not, and it's very risky. Oil and gas is much worse than land development.
Ups and downs.
Came back to Dallas and got into real estate. Don was brokering land. We'd always been kind of attached to land, just like you, the dirt, because that's really where the underlying value is in most real estate is the land. And also we like it because you can be creative. It's a vacant tract, a blank canvas. Let's create something really cool if we can. My father was a rancher and had some land in Carrollton where he would check the cows every day, and he loved doing that. He was also in the automobile business, so I need to mention that.
Yeah, because your grandfather was in the auto business from 1924.
We had our 100th anniversary this year, and my brother Ray runs all the dealerships. For 100 years, it's been in the family.
That's amazing.
It's
So
true.
it's just amazing. Then you go to the ranch in Carrollton.
We saw the houses and division encroaching on that area. I discussed with my father, let's maximize the value on the property.
Right.
Unfortunately, most of it was in the floodplain.
Can't build on it.
You can't build on it if it's
Right.
in the floodplain. You have to remove
Got
it
it.
from the floodplain.
Yeah.
So we hired people. Long story short, we did. We removed it from the floodplain. That took several years. In 88, 89, there was a big recession. Real estate was wiped out. Banks were wiped out. My father was in banking. He lost all the banks. We lost the property. It was used as collateral for other deals. We learned at a young age how to mitigate risk for macro environment, something that can come up that you're not prepared for.
Right, exactly.
And
No, be prepared for the rainy day.
well, that was a big storm.
I remember that. Overnight.
Overnight, yeah, within a few months. And the reason for that, and your audience probably doesn't know this, land is very illiquid because it's not producing any cash flow stream. This building or retail centers produce a cash flow stream. And even if tenants move out, there's still some cash flow.
Something coming in,
and then
right.
there's a replacement cost.
Right.
So you can value, no matter how bad it is, well, I'm buying it 50 cents on what it costs to build it, or I'm buying it on this cash flow stream. Well, land just sits there.
Yeah. You have to pay taxes on it. So it's, it's not free
There's a lot of risk associated
Sure.
with buying land.
with land. And then if you own a lot of it and it's not worth anything.
We try not to have much debt.
That's
we
a good.
try to have something free and clear.
So it's not been a piece of cake to get to where you are today. I mean, you had your ups and downs.
But the lesson I learned when I was in my mid-20s, when everybody went broke, including us, is be very careful on personal guarantees on loans. When and most individuals, when they get into the business, you have to personally guarantee the loan. The bank wants you responsible for whatever you're borrowing the money for. But if that business goes broke, they're coming after you. The bank will come after the individual personal guarantee before they go after the collateral.
Wow. Path of least resistance. Absolutely.
At the collateral, they want you to pay the loan.
Yeah, I remember covering the stories during the REO crisis. Banks do not want to get homes back because then they got to hire a whole department, train them, sell, basically go into the real estate business, and that's not their business. The business is
Correct.
banking. I understand that, and I try to explain that to people ahead of time. I totally get what you're saying. The end of the 80s for Texas. We had just come here, and all of a sudden it was like all my friends in commercial real estate were just selling their homes and downsizing hugely. How did you keep going from that point?
Well, I don't want to dwell too much on the negativity about what happened in those days. We would go to auctions. When the banks failed, the government came in, took over the banks. They would move all the loans over to a bad bank, or to what we called RTC, Resolution Trust Corporation. Their job was to sell those
dispose of it.
assets in foreclosed real estate. The best thing the government did was put a 3-year life on that entity. So the real estate community was sitting back waiting for that 3 years.
To clear.
And then they knew that's the bottom because, like I say, it's like everybody's falling knife's difficult to catch.
Right.
You just don't
Right.
want, you want to wait till it lands.
Yeah.
So they started having auctions and selling off assets. We found a few investors, but mainly we would go to the auction or to a savings and loan and contract for subdivision lots. Okay, so these were like 300 lots, 400 lots, and they're sitting there, no home builders, nothing's happening. They'd give you 60-day look, 30-day close, and in that 60 days, we'd run all over town and sell off pieces of those subdivisions to builders, and they would close simultaneous with us.
Wow.
So we would get some of the lots free and clear. We just started doing that and building lots and got familiar with how you construct them and which engineering firms. Our first master plan community was about 1998.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. You guys learned so much in that process that is valuable to you as a company, and you took those lessons and baked it in. I think that's part of what your success has been. So what was this development in 1998?
It was our first MPC, and it was a difficult one. It was in the city of Rowlett. We built a golf course, and it's still there, called Waterview Golf Course. We don't like building things that are widgets. We're not just down the street doing the same thing everybody else is doing. So something unique. So we built this golf course and we hired famous architects. It's called a public improvement district that we could sell bonds. The city was reluctant to do it. They said, okay, Huffines, you take your idea, this public improvement district, to the voters. And if the voters approve that, and it was a $6.5 million bond sale, then yeah, we'll invest it in the golf course with you.
Wow.
So we got the voters to approve it, big campaign. That's where we started getting involved in politics and campaigning. But it's not an 18-hole golf course.
Oh.
You're supposed to ask
Why?
Well, because it's 21 holes, so that it's different and unique. There's a 3-hole training course attached to par 3, par 4, par 5. And so the kids, the high school kids or individuals could come out.
Was it your idea to,
yeah.
so you made it 21 holes just to be a little bit different? And then you built the community around it.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
Can we talk about that a little bit? How do you decide what activities you want in these communities? Is it based on something that's been successful previously?
Back in the 2000s, Don and I took our team and our individuals across the country touring various master plan communities. And I think I need to explain what a master plan community is.
Yes, I was going to ask you.
Master plan community can be small or large. Most of them are fairly large with at least 1,000 homes, maybe 1,500. Our communities vary from 1,800 to 3,000 or 4,000 different home sites. But it's a cohesiveness. You know, what is cohesive about this community? That's what master planning is about. The streets are all planned, the architecture, deed restrictions, HOA.
It has a flow to it.
Correct.
Yes.
And you can usually tell when you're in one from the signage or the
Right.
architecture.
There's a gate or there's an entrance.
Yes. And there's
Yeah.
boundaries you can tell when you're in it. That's what we like to construct as a master plan community. We need a certain size in order to have a
that.
certain amount of amenities,
Right.
because otherwise the dues would be too expensive
Right.
to keep up with it.
Yeah.
And so we try to always purchase at least 300 acres, and that would be somewhere around 3 houses per acre.
Right.
That would be 1,000 home sites. That's usually the minimum size that we try to do.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends. You lose some from edge
Drainage
floodplain and
stuff.
streets.
Yeah.
Those would be about 10,000-foot lots or 8,000.
What are some of your peaks as far as the communities you've done now? Some of the,
How we came up with it. We're always on the lookout with ULI, Urban Land Institute. What is it that they're doing in other parts of the country? Florida's big on master plan communities,
yes.
as you can
Oh,
imagine.
that's for Seaside and Celebration.
And then Houston has a lot of master plans.
Yes.
California has a lot. They're mainly in the Sunshine States.
Right, where there was land.
Yes.
You know, New England, everything just kind of hodgepodged. Yeah.
One reason North Texas didn't have and still didn't have a lot of master plan communities is because there were so many suburbs, right? In Houston, there were not any suburbs. There's one city, and then they would set up these districts, and then they would.
Because there's no zoning.
And here,
Had his own zoning.
boundaries run into another town, so it's really one big city.
Yeah.
You know, I think I don't know, 80 to 100 different municipalities in the metropolitan area development, instead of the developer regulating its own development.
So you had to go in and just go by whatever their entitlements or the rules that they had put in place, right?
Right.
So you built your communities then outside of the municipalities, correct?
Both.
Okay.
We build both inside the county and the city.
In the city. When you build outside of the community, do you find that you can offer more affordable homes? And why is that?
Well, the reason I hesitate is I don't want to throw the cities
Under the bus.
But cities create
Costs.
to a developer, and
Yes.
all costs are passed on to the end buyer, right? That's the homeowner.
The home buyer.
And so whatever the cost the developer experiences, the home builder experiences, have to be baked into the product. And the product's the house.
Right.
So cities add at least $20,000 to $30,000 to the price of a home, impact fees, all of the things that they charge for.
Right. Even though we love our environment and we want to protect it, environmental laws, Home Builders Association have told me that can add almost 30%.
Well,
or
the
more.
two, and I'm just talking about as a
You're
developer.
just talking about the
cost.
developer, right.
Because we build the horizontal, and I think the
Right.
audience needs to know that.
Yes.
We don't build houses.
You develop the land for the builders to come in.
Right.
Yes, yes.
And we
you're
look
you're
for-
like the pallet. You clear the pallet, they come in and they do the.
Right.
Right.
Build the clubhouses, the amenities,
Yes.
swimming pools, or golf course, or whatever it may be, that attracts the builders and thus the home buyer. Because if the home buyer doesn't like what we do, then the builders go away. So we try to find amenities that are popular. Of course, pickleballs, super popular.
Pools.
Oh, giant swimming pools. You were going to ask about two of our communities, and I can tell
I was dying to get.
it's over the top.
Because we know that that's what consumers want. They want these activities and amenities, and it's almost getting to be, isn't it, like sort of a popularity contest now?
You're right, Candy. You know, like Hillwood, you had Fred on your show, and all these other, they go do something. Okay, we can do that better. But that's what makes capitalism so great. I can build a better product. I can do this. They're doing that. And then he says, well, Huffines is doing it. I'm going to do that.
We do better.
Right.
Like the whole idea about the farms, kind of like living on the farm and the nature and the harvest concept.
Yeah, but we always have to evaluate what is the cost.
Yeah.
And how much are people going to appreciate.
And appreciate that.
And so we would go monitor certain activities, certain things that other developers are putting in. And what we learned is a lot of it's just the sizzle, the marketing. They really don't use it, but it looks good or sounds good.
It's a good marketing tool.
And, people want to think they're going to use it. 90% of the people say, oh, this is great fitness.
January.
Yeah, 60% never show up.
So tell me about your star properties.
We started a community that I'm really proud of, but we don't own it. We bought the land in 06, 07. It's in Arlington. It's called Viridian. And it's huge. It's like 2,000 acres, 3,000 home sites. But we got caught in the recession, and it took 3 years to get our, quote, entitlements, the zoning, the master land plan changed with Arlington. And it's because we put a lot of acronyms on it.
Okay.
You're supposed to ask, what's the acronym?
What is an acronym?
It's everything from a municipal utility district, a MUD, a PID,
the PIDs, the
and all of these triple Ps, we call it, where you can offset the cost of the infrastructure and offsite utilities and all the problems with the property with government participation.
That's what they're really all about. I often have to Google all these when I'm writing, like, what is this one? What is this one? What is this one?
Yeah.
So that's why. No, so you, that is a beautiful community, by the way. You have a lot of water features there, don't you?
Yes, a big lake. The property was in the floodplain, and I had experience over the years with that.
From the ranch.
So we had to reclaim the land, move 8 million yards of dirt. The edges on these inner city properties can usually be difficult because they're old. Everything that was easy to developed. And so this property had strip joints nearby, oil and gas tanks, and industrial area because it was two cities, Fort Worth and Arlington's border. I had a landfill next to it. So we had to overcome a lot of that. And I want to brag on Viridian. Last year, I was at a real estate function, and an individual came up to me and said, Huffines. I said, yeah. He goes, do you know what the tax assessed valuation of Viridian was in 2009 and 10? Of course, it was recession year. I said, no. You take the existing value and everything that goes up above that, some of that is rebated back to pay for infrastructure, and the city, of course, gets their taxes. Right. I said, no. He said, it was $8 million. He said, you know what it was last year? I said, no. He said, $2.1 billion.
Oh, my God.
So it's been very successful. DFW Business Journal said it's third highest median home price in DFW. So very successful, very proud of it. We sold it in 16.
This was a floodplain.
It was, yeah. So the city really benefits, everybody benefits. Yeah. And so we're proud of that. But recently, I'm really proud of one we're constructing right now.
Okay.
And it's called Solterra.
Solterra.
Yeah. And then you may...
We know.
Okay, we can talk about, I'm really proud of the ability to overcome a lot of the negativity in the area and for the city to participate. It's important for us to under-promise and over-deliver. So they can call up the mayor and say, Huffines did this deal with you guys. We usually get glowing reviews.
Oh, yes, that's true. So would you call it the star now?
Next, we've got quite a few years. These MPCs can take 10 to 15, 20 years. Solterra is going to be at least 10 or 15. Savannah finished up a few years ago on Highway 380. That was 20 years. Providence we were focused on that traditional neighborhood design with rear entry and smaller homes with the board.
It's much more durable than wood, actually.
Everybody can paint it the color they want, and it looks like the house they grew up in.
That was your community, if I remember, with sort of the southern field.
Yes, right. The front porch requirement, but that's what makes our communities unique. Sidewalk widths, we were some of the first to mandate 5 feet. Cities still had 4. So we try to narrow down the roads a lot of times. Traffic slows down, traffic calming, trees in the front yard. We try to shade all of the sidewalks.
Oh, how wonderful.
We put trees in the parkway. We do require trees in the front yard. For the builders, we have design guidelines and architectural rules for the builders.
Architectural rules are...
And I think most individuals listening have a homeowners association. In the old days, back when the houses were built in the 60s and 70s, there weren't a lot, but now everyone has a homeowner association.
And it keeps the level of quality up and it makes it more harmonious.
Absolutely, and someone's putting in the flowers and maintaining it. One thing an HOA does, especially when you're not in a city, is what I call value enhanced. Now, cities call it code enforcement. Our value enhancers drive the community, and it's mainly landscape violations and handing out certified letters saying you got to mow, you got to trim the tree, do all these things.
Right, which makes you definitely not have to be the policeman and kind of takes the heat off. So that's great. So Solterra
Solterra is over. We bought it from the Lucas family in Mesquite. It's very close to 635, easy access. They've owned that land for 100 years.
Wow.
They finally found a developer they trusted that could really create a legacy for them. The city of Mesquite trusted us. We are in the second phase of development. We've already built 750 home sites, and we're building another 600 now. It's been very successful. The amenities I got to tell you about. So I think, we built it. The property had trees, and there was one tree that I found that is just spectacular. It was a red oak, and it was 52 inches in diameter, 140, 50 years old. I said, we got to build a tree house here. And so who knows how to build tree houses? Treehouse Masters on the History Channel I used to watch. We called them up. They came out and they built this giant tree house in this red oak. We trimmed it up, improved all the grounds underneath it, cleaned it all up. It's a beautiful park. And the tree house is probably the largest tree house in a community. And so we had it's just spectacular. And now when I say that, the clubhouse, it's just now being finished, and the swimming pool is unbelievable. Spray park for the kids, swim up bar, and an adult pool.
Swim up bar?
And then we've got something no one's seen yet. It's a blob that's in the middle of the pool. Kids can climb up and slide down and do all kinds of activities on this blob.
Oh, I've seen those at Boot Ranch. They're amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, down in the hill country. That's amazing. But a swim up bar, that is awesome.
I think most people have been to Cancun or Cozumel, and they all have it. So I said, we got to do it. We're also in the multifamily business. We've built over 2,000 apartments. So we built a big swim up bar in the apartment complex. It's fun. Be creative.
It's awesome. We have so much to talk about, and I don't want to miss. I do want to talk to you about affordable housing, because you guys are in this business. This is the topic du jour. I mean, every municipality, everyone's talking about affordable housing. Our state is trying to implement some laws to get affordable housing. The cities are handing out 75 years of tax-free bonds or tax credits to get more affordable housing. What do you think about, you're an experienced developer. How do we get affordable housing? What makes it affordable? What can we do to ensure that it stays that way?
Well, that's a really tough question, because it's been studied over and over, various institutions and groups. I think it's really twofold. It's where's the cost, because it's supply and demand. If there's a big supply, then the cost or the price comes down. If there's limited supply, then the price goes up. And then there's a cost factor where how can you reduce the cost of the home? And so there's individuals and groups that look at factory-built homes to lower the cost, everything you can imagine on how the construction cost of the home can come down. From our standpoint in developing lots for builders to purchase and build a house, a lot of it, as I mentioned earlier, is in the cost that the city places on not only the home builder, but the lot developer through impact fees or other costs. And most individuals, when they talk about cost, they forget the soft cost. Every home builder, every developer, everything you see works on a profit. And there's usually investors associated with that at times. So when a city delays a permit or delays the approval process, whether it's the streets, water, sewer, and it sits on some bureaucrat's desk for a month or two, most individuals require 15% minimum required rate of return. Well, that cost just was passed on to the consumer, because there's no revenue generated until all of that gets approved and permitted. In 1 month delay, the cost just went up 1.5%. On a $400,000 house, it's $4,000 if the entire cost was there. But it's staggered, the expenditures. I think speeding up the process, one-stop permit certainly can help. And what the state is talking about, what you just mentioned, is what occurred back in the 1930s and 20s and 40s was zoning was approved by the Supreme Court. It limits the ability for certain communities to have affordable housing, because the city councils are controlled by people who have pick a number, $800,000 house, and they don't want any $400,000 houses. But they control the council, and those are what we call not in my backyard individuals. The government, the legislature in Texas and the city of Dallas is trying to pass ordinances or laws that says, well, you don't need zoning for single family. You can build it wherever you want. The lot size can be as small as the developer wants, or the market Once it's moving, and it opens up a lot of land for more housing in more convenient locations. Not apartments, or it can be apartments. What the cities are talking about is detached housing and small lots or fourplexes, duplexes.
The quads.
And then that lowers the cost so that it makes it more affordable.
What is the bottom line of what you can build a home for today?
Wow, that's a great question. Production builders, new home builders have a lot of economies of scale.
Same carpet, all the same,
That's right.
a big bulk of it.
And custom builders, lots of cost associated. This room's this size, there's more studs, there's more this, it's all unpredictable. So we usually focus our sales with production builders because they know what they're doing, they know what they can pay, and they know what they can sell the house for. And they're not out there guessing.
Right.
What, the question?
What do you think? 400, 300?
Maybe $100 a foot.
$100 a foot. And
So-
that's a safe home that has,
They have warranties associated with them, and that's the last thing a home builder wants to deal with.
Exactly, yeah.
So if they have a subcontractor who's not performing, they get rid of
They
that quick because they don't want to deal with the warranty.
so
work.
100 a foot.
So that 2,000 foot house would be 200,000 just for home construction. Then you have to add landscaping, you have to add permitting cost, and then they have to buy the lot.
But usually about a quarter the price of the,
1/4 of the price they sell the home for. 100,000.
what, 400 now?
400 for a new home for 2,000 square feet. Now the average price of a new home in Collin County is about $550, and what keeps driving that is demand, the government's place on housing. A household who makes $150,000 household income can really only afford about a $450
Right, that's it.
a house. There is a big transfer of wealth that's occurring. Most people don't talk about it. As my parents and older parents die off, they leave some wealth. It may be $10,000. It may be $10 million. The inheritance allows the individual to borrow less, so the mortgage is less, so they can afford more. So if we don't get control of the affordability problem, we're going to end up like California.
Yeah.
A lot of the NIMBYs coming in are bringing that to the city councils, where we're not going to allow anybody else to build. And every home in California is $1 million. And the only way you can buy that is you're already in the game.
Right.
You're selling a house, taking your equity and profit, buying another house.
Exactly.
Just not what we want in Texas, the spirit and the frontierism in Texas.
Exactly. Well, I hate that we're going to have to stop, but we're going to come back and do this again because you have so much valuable information. It's amazing.
The growth of the Dallas-Fort Worth area is phenomenal. And this is important to know. Everybody says, well, how can you live so far out? They're not far out from their job.
Right, right.
The tollway has more jobs there than downtown Dallas.
Downtown Dallas. You are absolutely on spot. Not only that, but we saw during COVID that people started working from home more.
That's right.
And that kept them off the roads. I mean, they're not all driving to downtown Dallas. We have to get that out of our heads because that's not what's happening. I would love to check in with you periodically with what's happening, especially on this affordability issue, because I'm a big believer in home ownership. I think that's the basis of the greatness of our country. I want to see that continue, and I don't want to take that away from these young kids.
Absolutely. Then they're vested in the community.
Exactly. The proof is there that kids do better in school when they're in a single-family home. The community does better. There's more voters. I'm sure your brother knows this when you run for council or for any state. They don't even bother with the apartments because they don't vote. They go to the homes. They vote. They care.
They go transient.
Of course, what I do is that basically the foundation of everything is the home and the dirt. Thank you so much. And will you please come back?
I'll come back anytime you invite me.
Thank you.
Thank you
So much for watching us and listening to us today. And please bookmark us because we will be back with Phillip again. Thank you.